And good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Allen.
I'm Andrea Anderson. State lawmakers could be returning to Pierre for a special session. Dakota News Now has confirmed tonight that a group of Republican House lawmakers filed a petition. It aims at calling a special session to examine laws for both eminent domain and property rights.
Yeah, this issue stems from a proposed CO2 pipeline project from Summit Carbon Solutions. Landowners have raised concerns about safety as well as surveyors damaging their land. The petition comes roughly 2 weeks after landowners and some lawmakers rallied in Pierre, urging Governor Nome to call a special session. Last week, the governor said her ability to call a special session would be fruitless because she said there was no consensus on a bill. State lawmakers can also call a special session with 2/3 approval from both the State House and Senate. The petition for a special session will remain open until 2/3 of lawmakers sign on, it is withdrawn, or until the 2024 legislative session begins.
Turning things